Now, there's probably a few of y'all out there that haven't seen Die Hard. And you know what? I am ashamed of you, not only as a male or female, but as a human being. Light. This villain was everything you would want. As far as, he would have made a perfect Bond villain in my eyes. We just got him in Die Hard, which I'm not upset with. I always like to end with a top 5 because talking about all the villains and things like that, I think this top 5 had to be villains that really make you forget about the hero, where the hero is kind of the second fiddle. All right, welcome back this week. As I said last week, I got a good one for you this week. A movie that would have been ruined had it not been for the great performance and the awesome villain. As always, this is your boy Gator. We're here on the Heel Havoc podcast. We celebrate the bad guys, the heels, the villains, all the people that do the hard work to make the movies, TV shows, and of course, the squared circle, what we love to watch and see. So, without further ado, and no more gilding the lily, let's talk about Hans Gruber. Now, there's probably a few of y'all out there that haven't seen Die Hard. And you know what? I am ashamed of you, not only as a male or female, but as a human being, because everybody should see this Christmas movie, especially for one of the best performances by any villain, any time period at all. This was one of the greatest performances as far as a villain goes. And in case you didn't see it, don't know who I'm talking about the late, great Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman, which probably most people will know as Professor Snape. He was a kind of a actor of the stage and small screen over in England, but decided whenever he came into America, he wanted to try his hardest to get into the movie business. And he was in Hollywood for a grand total of 2 days before Die Hard fell in his lap. And he was about to pass on it. But he was actually given because of the excellent writing of the show, he was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. It's worth it. Now, this was his first full movie premiere, and he was 41 when this happened, showing that late in life, early in life, it doesn't matter. You can always do things as long as you put your mind to it and get it going. He was 42 when it was released. And you know, as far as first movies go, he really knocked it out of the park. But like I said, Hollywood, 2 days, and he landed Die Hard. And this villain, he had down to a T, wide range. Now, Alan Rickman has a range that he can play in comedy, drama. He was appearing in Dogma, Galaxy Quest, Love Actually, and of course the voice of the pressed robot in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He enjoyed making his shows and movies, and that was what kind of drew you into him. His theatrical training really made him a perfect actor for drama, but he could do the comedy and action as well, as he has proven many a times over. And he passed away in 2016, left us with a mountain of movies that we'll never get tired of. So RIP to Alan Rickman, because if anybody could have pulled this one off, it was him. Now we gave a little status to Alan Rickman. Let's talk about his first major movie, Die Hard, and his portrayal of Hans Gruber. Now, of course, the good guy comes out and we see him going through all the motions of the first few minutes. But from the moment Alan Rickman steps onto that screen, he is not saying a word, but people are following his every direction. He displayed the power of his character without even saying a word. The power would only grow throughout the movie. From his first appearance, had no question who was in charge, and he hadn't even said a single word yet. Now he goes through and they're getting everything set up. He finally gets up to the crowd. They're having a Christmas party, which is why Die Hard will be a Christmas movie in my heart till the end of days for me. I don't care what anybody else says. Now, he spoke to the crowd, and they're scared workers, women crying, guys trying to butch up and act all macho, saying, "Oh, we're gonna be fine, we're gonna calm themselves down," yeah, blah blah blah, candy asses. Now, he's given a speech to everybody at this Christmas party, trying to flesh out George Takagi, which is the president or CEO of that Nakatomi building or whatever it is. I was like, but fleshing him out. I was like, goes through I was like, he's not screaming, not hammering down, not intimidating. He is calmly going around the room, speaking all of his personal information, where he went to school, how he got to where he is, and just walking around, looking at everybody, just with a calm demeanor of a face. And then when Takagi has had enough, stands up and says, "Enough." And he finishes, "And father of 5. It's a pleasure to meet you." Before moving him from the room, very cordial, polite. This villain was everything you would want. As far as, I mean, he would have made a perfect Bond villain in my eyes. We just got him in Die Hard, which I'm not upset with. But cordial, polite, talk to everybody in a calm, demeaning, professional, even I dare I say educated manner. But he's shown, even whenever he was taking Takagi up to the elevator so he could do his one-on-one intimidation, blah blah blah. I was like, he was looking down, going do 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 do, and he noticed his suit. He even says, "John Phillips, London," and Takagi just looks at him, knowing that this is a tailor he had used. And he's like, he smiles, laughs, and says, I have two myself. Now, Takagi knows at that moment that not only is this man violent, but he walks in the same world as Takagi and all the higher ups. He knows the world that they live in. So it's not just some petty thug that's doing this. It is someone refined and educated. He gave a lot to Takagi from that moment right there, just by noticing one, like a suit that you're wearing, something that I wouldn't notice. Most, like 99% of the world wouldn't notice, but the people that do recognize quality. And he even does a little quote. It's not an exact quote, but I do like it. As they walk into the model room, and Alexander saw the breadth of his domain, and he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. Benefits of a classical education. So now he is demonstrating to Takagi that not only does he know about his world, but he is an educated man as well. And it's similar. And the actual quote that he uses symbolizes the burden of absolute success and the lack of new challenges. Kind of foregoing, because he's looking for absolute success on what would be one of a great heist. Now, whenever he's going through the intimidation, again, speaking as calmly as I am to you, as plain, he doesn't, I was like, yell, doesn't shout, doesn't shove, doesn't put a gun in his face. He lays the gun softly down on the table to make sure we don't scratch that fine wooden table. Then gives him an ultimatum. Just wants a code to get past it, and Takagi refuses to give him. Doesn't do it at all. And Takagi finally says, "You're just going to have to kill me because I don't know." And he says, "Okay," and shoots him. Man, cold-blooded, right then and there. Not a shadow, not a doubt. Real quick. Nobody even breaks a sweat in that room. But it was a very cold, calculated kill because you could tell there was no emotion in it. It was a business first. There was no pleasure in taking anything. So, now, whenever he goes down and gives a speech that he's not coming back, everybody in that room now knows how serious, of course, is our hero, John McClane, as well. I was like, he knows how serious this group is, as well as now he's just shuttling around. He doesn't know what to do. He's trying to figure it out. That he hadn't thrown the first wrench in the cog just yet. He is still figuring things out. Now, the everything's going down. Now John's about to come up. Now we've had our first taste of the one of the greatest villains in cinema history, in my opinion. Now we're going to go through the movie and we're going to see a lot of the backstory. John trying to figure out how he's going to save all these people. That being said, now he eventually kills, and then we see him go down. And at that point, he rides the elevator. You know the story. If you haven't seen it, by the way, spoilers all through this podcast in case you're planning on watching it. But if and after a while, he gets on the microphone. First time he talks to John, he sounds very condescending, like he's making fun of him. But if you notice the questions and the way he asks specifically to get a better feel of who he's talking to, he was talking about American that just saw an underpaid security guard, Rambo. He's like watched too many John Wayne movies as a kid, and of course, I'm like, I was always a fan of Roy Rogers myself. And then you got, do you really think you could stop us, Mr. Cowboy? I was like, but he was trying to measure him out, and even asking questions, even posing that thing as like, you're very troublesome for a security guard. And he's like, wrong answer. So he was constantly trying to pick little things to try to get more in depth. Every conversation he had with him was to find more and more about him, but he never got that full until he actually sat down and talked to him, which we'll get to in a moment. Now, John finally throws his first big wrench and the police show up, and he throws a dead body, which, was kind of a dick move, because immediately they start shooting at the police car. I mean, they could have got him killed. I mean, John's just like, welcome to the party, pal. But, I mean, think about that. We could have lost Carl. And that's a reference to Family Matters. Tough. I watched that show too. But yeah, we could have lost him. I was like, because immediately once that body landed, they start firing machine guns straight at him, trying to kill him. Real dick move, John. Real dick move. Sorry, it had to be said. But he has when the police show up, he not panic. He even calms everybody down. I was like, it says he just has to improvise. And instead tells everyone, I was like, it's a matter of inconvenient timing. Puts everyone back to work and just keeps moving forward, knowing that the police were going to show up anyways, according to his plan. Has everything laid out in a perfect manner where he knows when things are going to happen. Now, this is a little early, so going through. Now, his main focus whenever John kills Carl's brother is to try to keep calm, on point, doing what he's supposed to do. I was like, now we all know Carl didn't do that, which is a big reason why Han failed. Otherwise, that show would have ended with him sitting on a beach, making 20%. So the absolute, brilliance of Han, is he was a planner. He was a thinker. He never let anything go undone. Now, the only thing he didn't plan for was, of course, John McClane. But if you look at everything that his other people did, they screwed him over, because he could have actually won the night. But it was other people that didn't do what he said that cost him everything. But the absolute brilliance of his ingenuity, I guess you can say, and intelligence came whenever he met John McClane in the airway or whatever that thing was, face to face, sit there talking to him. And in a matter of seconds goes from terrorist hero or terrorist, leader. Straight down to, American accent, scared hostage, routine, almost full John. He wasn't 100% certain, but almost got him. But even the name you saw that he got on there. Now, a lot of people said it was a W.A. I was like, William A. Well, Bill is It was like kind of a short for William. If you go back far enough, which that was an 80s movie. So yeah, that's far enough. So he had the absolute, just turned it on in a heartbeat instead of trying to overpower or kill him. I was like, everything was going. And he had planned out all the details already, including the police calling the FBI. And the big one was the artillery that they used on whenever the police tried to charge the building. They had the rocket launchers and they had all this stuff. He even knew to bring the big guns for when they tried it, so they would have to call the FBI. He had everything planned down to a detail. Perfect. And like I said, if Carl would have just done what Hans told him, the plan would have worked out great. They would have gotten away with it and been chilling on a beach. But no, Carl screwed it up. Now, one of the big things I always say, even at the right at the end where he finds out Holly is John's wife, he doesn't go up to her and shoot and shout and all that stuff. Now, he does shoot a gun to scare everybody up to the roof, but that was part of the plan. But he says, "Mrs. McLean, nice to make your acquaintance." Very calm as well. Didn't try to just take revenge and shoot him. I was like, and instead of letting her go up, he keeps her around. Plan C, just in case. He's already thinking ahead. Man, this guy, if he was in real life, he would get away with everything. Now, I'm sure there are some guys out there that plan this deep, but man, he had everything covered all the way through. Now, he keeps calm all the way through, and even whenever he was about to tell John, but he was already in a fight with Carl because Carl, as we know, was screwing everything up at this point. Even had a shot right in the back of his head. Could have just shot him, called it a day. Problem solved. John's out of the way. We're all good to go. Nope, Carl screwed up again. Now, as far as keeping calm is a very rare quality amongst villains and heels. I mean, it really is. I mean, at some point, personal feelings, hatred, anger always take over. This is one thing Han was above and beyond on. I even liked the fact whenever Holly said, "You're a common thief," he replied by saying, "I am an exceptional thief. And since I'm moving up to kidnapping, you should be more appreciative." He acknowledged the fact that he is exceptional in what he does. So, in the end, men not following directions led to the failure. Even with the interference from John, everything could have worked out had his men just listened to him from the very beginning, locked him up in that the top of the elevator shaft where there was no exits except going down, which if people weren't trying to break in and shoot him, he probably would have taken his time, wait, and just sat up there as long as he could. But no, Carl again was trying to get in there and kill him. So John jumps down the elevator shaft, and we all know how that ends. Second way, his guy taking the detonators with him. Why did he take the bag of detonators with him? Why didn't he just leave that up there with the explosive? That way they would have been there. And then Han wouldn't have been there to begin with. Just saying. And of course, we know Carl just not shooting him in the back of the head when he had the shot. Easy one. Wanted to fight, torture, all that stuff. Idiot move. But I'm going to end this segment on Hans Gruber with a fun fact. Now, if you've seen the movie Die Hard, you know the look on Hans Gruber's face whenever he's fallen from the high rise from the window, and the funny thing about this is not just a acting. That was real, because on the countdown, the director actually let go of the rope too soon. So that was actual fear. Like, he thought he was really falling. So that's the only part where he wasn't acting. That was real. You gotta love the little directors to throw those at. Now, I always like to end with a top 5, because talking about all the villains and things like that, I think this top 5 had to be villains that really make you forget about the hero, where the hero is kind of the second fiddle. So let's start off number 5. Colonel Hans Landa, played by Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards. If you have seen this movie, you know why he won the Oscar for it. His ability was straight up maniacal, detective like. It was awesome. I mean, up until then, who knew who Christoph Waltz was? There was a handful of people. He'd done a little bit of acting over the years, and he was done a lot of things, but he wasn't a big name, but he does this one movie and gives a outstanding performance and nails it. And then all of a sudden, everybody knows him. Now we also know him from Django Unchained, but in Inglourious Bastards, Brad Pitt's supposed to be the hero and the one everybody's watching, but you kind of get glued on Christoph Waltz, the Jew hunter, the Nazi, because his performance was just amazing. Now, of course, I've already went through my number 4 as of the beginning of this, the great Hans Gruber. After everything I just said, he was cool, he was calm, he was collective, he was a thinker. He was obviously a chess player because he was thinking 5-6 points ahead and never getting tired. So he was, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, one of the best portrayals of a villain in cinematic history. And he did this on his first major movie, and he only got better over time. Just look at him as Professor Snape. Now, number 3, Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. Man, I know he is an amazing actor, but he brought something different to this horror movie. It was supposed to be a horror detective killer movie, things like that, but man, he was creepy, intelligent, and just like, even with a glass wall and little bitty holes, he was smelling, and then he could tell her what cream she was using on her skin. But not today. I mean, man. And then again, someone always planning everything out to a T. Intelligent. You see, that's where I think makes one of the best villains is really intelligence. Because I think the ones that plan everything out and just have that plan where you don't know where it's going to go, kind of like Jigsaw on the Saw series, but he takes you on a ride and you don't know where it's going to go, and then all of a sudden you're waiting for the villains just so you can finish some of the story. And I think Hannibal Lecter was just that. That's why he has a sequel. That's why they redid Red Dragon. That's why it was so good. It was a perfect character for him. Now, number 2. Now, if you know me and you listen to me, then you know I'm a massive Star Wars fan. And number 2 is Darth Vader. Now, why is Darth Vader not number 1? You will know whenever I say number 1. Now, Darth Vader was played by multiple actors, but voiced by the legendary James Earl Jones. And for good, I mean, they had an actor that played him, an actor that voiced him, and all sorts of things. But Darth Vader was one of those that in this first Star Wars movie, he was in it for less than 15 minutes total. But that's what people remember the most is his portions in the movie, his character, because it outshined everything else. Even people ask for more Vader. Right now, I would love to see a Vader series with, the actor that played him in the prequels, Hayden Christensen. But I would love to see it because I really think whenever Vader came into the Obi-Wan series, we finally saw Hayden able to do Vader, not just having to play Anakin, but do Vader. And I would, for one, enjoyed that version of him. But I'm hoping that they actually get around to doing a Vader series before he gets too old to do it, and then we got to use voiceover again and all that good stuff. But I think Darth Vader is such an iconic character. He'll never go out of style, and he only gets bigger with time. That's why they give him bigger portions every single movie he's in. Now, as promised, number 1, the only one that could beat out Darth Vader, the Joker from The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger's performance is the stuff of legends. I mean, absolute perfection. If there was ever a word to describe an actor's performance, it would be perfection. It was the second to last movie he did. He went through incredible, he was a method actor, so he went through incredible realization, even locked himself in a hotel room for 6 months or 6 weeks, something like that. And where no outside contact, had his meals delivered. There was no phones, no nothing. He did not call anything. That was insanity. He cut off all outside talking to people, where it was just him. And he had to learn to live. And that was getting in the right mind frame to play this character. And you see that in the movie where he steals the show. I know everybody loves Batman, the villainous Batman that I did a podcast on a couple weeks ago, but Heath Ledger's performance literally steals the show from the moment he enters the screen. There's nobody nobody that plays the Joker afterwards. Now, we know Joaquin Phoenix had a different Joker. Now, I will be doing a podcast about Joker, and it'll be a long one because I'm going to go through the different versions, because there's so many different versions and lore about Joker that you cannot narrow it down to just one. That's what makes his character so great. And Heath Ledger's portrayal of him, where you never knew what kind of a person. Now, one of the biggest scenes was when you first see him. He's interrupting the party, and he comes in, hello, lady, and blah, blah, blah. Now, if you look at Michael Caine's face right there, he actually had a line right then. But he saw Heath Ledger and completely forgot about it. And he just let him walk in and ended up staying in the movie, because that's how, it was just perfect in any other way. And that was just how he got seen. So Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, true, in my opinion, one of the best villains, if not, in my opinion, the best that has ever been on the screen, where it's made you forget why you were there to see the other hero win it all. Or you kind of start rooting for the Joker at the end. See if he can make Batman break his one rule. But if you haven't seen any of those movies, I highly recommend. Again, that's Inglourious Bastards, Die Hard, Silence of the Lambs with Anthony Hopkins, Darth Vader, Star Wars, pretty much any one of them. Not the series, or not the sequels with Rey, but the first 6 prequels, definitely check them out. Greatness. I do always love some Darth Vader. Now, this time we will call it a day, call it a week, and I will be back next week. Now, I have a couple ideas for next week, and I think I'm going to do one podcast with a complete top 5, because, as you know, I am a wrestling fan. This week was WrestleMania week, or this past weekend, and I was not as impressed as I usually am, I guess you could say. A couple great matches, but most of them, I could have seen on Raw or SmackDown or whatever, because it was just a basic match to me. But I really want to do a top 5, and I'm going to go through, in my opinion, of the greatest managers in wrestling business history. I'm going to do a whole show, and it's going to be a top 5, break down my top 5 where managers, and my number 1 might shock you. Never know. So till next week, thank you for listening. Don't forget to give a like and a follow. Please, by all means, subscribe, or else you might not see me again. I don't know. I might break a few hearts there. But enjoy, tune in, and again, tune into Hill Havoc as always, because here it is good to be bad.